Welcome to Be in Tune. Join me, your host Darien, and my producer Joab, as we have conversations that deepen our connection with our higher power, ourselves, and the world around us. So, get ready to tune in, turn up that volume, and welcome to the Be in Tune podcast. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to another episode of the Be in Tune podcast. As you heard in the intro, I am your host, Darien. And today we don't have Joab, but he is producing. So for this episode, he'll be behind the scenes instead of on the camera with me. So let's get into it because I have a topic for us to discuss. As you know, I like to have discussions here on the pod just to get us to really just reflect on how are we growing in our lives, in our personal lives, right? How are we moving in the direction of growth, in the direction that we want to grow, right? And importantly, for those of you who are Christ followers, in the direction that the Lord has called you to walk towards, right, and to grow in. Now, there's been a topic on my mind, and so let's just jump into it. The topic is interesting enough. It goes with this quote, this movie quote. For those of you who do not know, I love movies. I will pick movies over a series. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't watch series. It's just, I love a good movie because I like to see the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I am into the Marvel universe, of course, as many are. And there is this quote, like I said, that supports the theme that I want to discuss. So let me kind of get into the quote first, and then we'll jump and then I'll state what the theme is. So this quote is coming from Spider-Man No Way Home. That movie was amazing. Okay, phenomenal. I was freaking out when I saw all the Spider-Men. It's yes, yes. But the quote in the movie is one that MJ tells Peter, which is, if you expect a disappointment, you can never really be disappointed. Just going to repeat it again. If you expect disappointment, so if we expect disappointment, you can never really be disappointed. And what I want to talk about today is expectations. Right? This is a topic that I believe all of us can relate to, and it's centered around this question of: are we having such high expectations of ourselves? Are we having high expectations of others? Right? Are we not having any expectations of ourselves, nor having any expectations of others? Should we be like MJ here and just have the expectation that disappointment is always going to happen? And I get it, and I get this quote a lot. And when it was stated, I was like, facts, real. Let's put this on a T-shirt. This quote, because I believe it's fair to say that we are living in such a disappointing world. I think disappointing is a soft word to describe the world that we're living in. Um, but there's a lot of disappointments that happen. You want to make changes in your job. You can expect to be disappointed there because here you go with such efforts, to make said changes, but you're met with some resistance. Same could be said in the medical field, right? In hospitals and such. I know a lot of folks who went into the medical field with the determination to make changes um, within the system, and they're met with a lot of red tape and a lot of resistance. Folks in my field, in the therapeutic world, right, go into the field with the expectations to make changes, to change the world one human at a time. And then we are met with resistance. We are met with red tape. We are met with insurance companies. Don't get me started. That's a whole different episode there. So, and I think it's fair to say that a lot of us are walking around with this quote in mind of, yeah, I'm just expecting disappointment because that's all I have been getting in my life. Sorry, I'm outside, so I got distracted a little bit. And I'm expecting disappointment because my folks weren't there, my friends have disappointed me, my relationships have. And then you have folks that set such high expectations for things, incredibly high expectations for relationships, right? For themselves. I must do this, I must accomplish this as such. And that could be for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe if I set such high expectations, I will not be like, it will be met. Therefore, I will feel good and I will feel safe. Well, here's the something that someone that I trusted said to me that kind of pushed back on this quote, and on the other side of it, of not having any expectations. Because I was speaking to this person and I said, I'm just not going to have any expectations for folks, for people, because it's just going to work out better for me. It's- let me just not do it. And they pushed back and said on this idea, and it kind of wrecked this quote that MJ stated real in a good way. It like wrecked the premise of it. And it was that not having expectations is the thing that we want to kind of stray away from. It's more having managed expectations, because having zero expectations isn't going to protect you. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Not having any expectations of yourself or of others isn't going to protect you. If you expect disappointment, you can never really be disappointed. It's true. Here's another thing though: nothing is being met, no need is being met, nothing is happening, no changes. And in the context of relationships, I think it's fair to say that your relationships, they don't move in the direction of healthiness. They just stay idle. They just stay where they're at. And you'll never have any needs met. But we do this because it is to protect ourselves, right? Why expect nothing feels safe? And in reality, it isn't safe. Because when we expect nothing, all we're doing is we're trying to avoid the disappointment. And here's the thing: it also avoids actually a need being met, being supported, held to anything. See, when you're trying to avoid expectations and you're trying to avoid the disappointments that come with setting expectations, you're also avoiding the need being met that you may have and what may be surrounding the expectations that you are setting. You're avoiding being supported, because let's stick to the context of relationships. So now this person, you're avoiding them actually them stepping up and being able to support you. You're also avoiding holding being held to anything, or having a standard set. And when I thought about it that way and I saw the other side of that coin, I said, it's true. It's not about not having expectations. It's about having managed expectations. See, here's the thing: healthy relationships run on some expectations. Some, right? And it surrounds honesty, effort, and showing up, right? I think those are necessarily three ingredients right there that makes a healthy relationship. Hi, just want to interrupt our conversation. Okay, I'm glad that you're tuning in and I hope you are enjoying our conversation. But I just wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Imperfectly Tuned Counseling. Yes, my mental health therapy practice. As you know, the Being Two podcast is an extension of it.
But I don't know if you know this, but Imperfectly Tuned Counseling offers mental health services and coaching services. I know it's a lot. If you are in Massachusetts, as the practice is based in the state, right? Please consider reaching out if you are looking for mental health therapy services. I offer individual counseling, and so we'll love to have a connection and a chat with you. Also, if you're not based in Massachusetts, but you're looking for something broader, something that can help you move you along into the next step, or if you're just looking to bring in some mental health conversations within your communities, within your churches, within your organizations, reach out. And in Perfectly Tuned, I offered also coaching and mental health first aid. Yes, if you don't know about mental health first aid, then reach out. Be more than happy to have that conversation with you. Imperfectly Tuned Counseling, you can learn more about it at imperfectlytuned.com. Again, imperfectlytuned.com. And if you are liking this episode, and if you've liked all of our episodes, which I hope you have, then please hit the like button and subscribe. Like, what are we doing? Just hit the button. I have no idea where the button is. It's down here, to the left, to the right, doesn't matter. Just hit that subscribe button and be part of the Intune family. Okay, now let's get back to our conversation. Remember, be in tune.
So, as I talk a little bit more here, I think it's fair to say, shift gears into learning kind of a skill that goes along with this topic. Because, like I said, it's been roaming around in my head, and a skill that I think that would be incredibly helpful falls under interpersonal effectiveness, which is really it's a particular skill that is found in DBT, and it's about how you manage relationships, how you maintain relationships, how you improve them, right? And how you say deuces to those that are very toxic. Listen, some of y'all, there's some toxic relationships that we're in. You got to cut them. They got to go. That was just my unsolicited piece of advice there for 2 seconds. But I don't give therapeutic advice here. I'm just saying, just talking. Anyhow, let me get back on topic here. Right? Some things that we need to kind of keep in mind when it comes to having expectations in our relationships, in our healthy relationships. Notice the word healthy here. Okay, I'm not saying relationships in general. I'm talking about healthy relationships. Is know what you actually need versus what you are hoping for. See, anytime that I talk about an interpersonal effectiveness skill and specifically about how to communicate effectively with someone, there's always the encouragement that I give to the person of know what you want. Know what is it that you want, know what is it that you need. Especially if you're asking this person for something. Ask them, figure it out first before you go talk to them. Because here's the thing, sometimes we'll be talking to people and we're like, I'm just trying to figure out what it is that I need from you here. I'm just trying to figure out in the moment, live, in real time here, what I want from this relationship. And that's okay, right? That's cool. Just note that there can cause a little bit of frustration and it can cause a little bit of um, anxiety on your end and the frustration, right, of just like, oh, I don't know exactly what it is, and then you're lying in bed at 11 p.m. You're like, that's the thing that I wanted, this is what I wanted to say to them. It happens to the best of us, and sometimes it's required for us to have the real talk, right, and then in that moment figure it out. And then there's times where we can actually think about, what is it that I want, what is it that I actually need, and not just stay with the mindset of what this is what I hope for. See, this person ought to know what I want, right? They ought to know, what I hope for. They've been with me for so long. Don't you think that they already know what I want? Well, I'm just gonna say, this goes into my second point. Say it out loud instead of assuming people should know. Ain't nobody a mind reader. And no offense to those who claim to be. All right. I'm not trying to shoot you down. I'm not even coming for you. I'm just saying, ain't nobody a mind reader. You got to tell people what it is that you want. You can't just assume that people know, because if they knew, they would do it, right? Now, I'm not trying to get into some relationships here because then some of you will be like, see, so now they do know, but they don't do it. No, that's a different episode right here, and I'm not going there. I just think here in this context of having expectations in our healthy relationships, right? If we're trying to having some managed expectations, we need to be clear with who we're having a relationship with. And part of that clarity is actually learning how to state the thing that you need, the thing that you want, instead of assuming that they will pick up on it and know. Because nobody's a mind reader. I said it early, ain't nobody a mind reader. I'm just going to say it, reframe it, say it again in this way. No one is a mind reader. Yeah, but some things are just context clues. Right. And say it. But I have been saying it. Okay, now we're talking something different here. Now here's I'm going to introduce you to a new word, and it's amazing. It's called boundaries. Just throwing that in there. Boundaries. Again, another piece of unsolicited and whatnot. Boundaries are great. Man's best friend, besides the dog, right? Those are awesome. Get some. Highly encourage it. And the third point that I want to make here when it comes to our interpersonal skills and again improving our relationships and cultivating healthy relationships is specifically surrounding our expectations that we set for people and for ourselves is adjust the expectation to the real person in front of you, not who you wish they were. Many times there's expectations put on people. In my field in particular, in my job, I see it all the time. I experience it. Some expectations are put on me, and I'm looking at the other person like, uh, I don't, I don't think I'm fitting who you have in mind. I'm me, not what you have in your mind, right? And vice versa, right? And this happens a lot, and I love the way that that was stated. That's why I decided to throw it in my little notes here. Like when we need to learn to adjust our expectation to the real person in front of us, not who you wish for them to be, because they're not there. They're not that who you envision them, and you're not being fair because you wouldn't want that to be done to you. Who's the person in front of you? Do you know? Because that goes back to point number two. Let's stop assuming that people would know what it is that you're thinking, what is it that you want and need. Learn to tell them. There's a lot with this, just this little theme, this theme. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have a part two on this, right? To flush out some of these points more. And again, just to get us to think and just to reflect on how are we doing in our lives and how are we growing and how are we cultivating healthy relationships. I couldn't help but think on the faith side of things with this topic. And trusting people in God isn't the same as expecting nothing. I think there's a lot of us because a lot of us that are living that quote that MJ stated in No Way Home of if you expect disappointment, you can never really be disappointed. And I think we apply that quote to when it comes to God. Humans have disappointed us. Humans have failed us over and over again. And I stand 10 toes down here that God doesn't. There's a whole Bible. Read it. That's proof that he doesn't disappoint. And we're human. And we have our own expectations. And we have our own stuff. We have our own POV on how the world works. Now, that is something that has taken me a minute to really learn, right? That I can actually adjust the low expectations that I have for the Lord and then kind of increase them, right? And I had to learn to adjust actually my expectations when it comes to a relationship with him because it's all stemming from what I want and how I believe things should go. There is that word that we hear a lot in Christianity. It's called surrender, right? But surrendering to his will doesn't mean that you don't have hope or standards. It just means that you're learning to let things go from letting things go and letting him take the lead on things. Reminds me of a verse actually in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight." Because I'm gonna be real with y'all. Sometimes I be thinking things. Sometimes I'm just like, this is what happened. This is what occurred. This is what you're telling me here, and it's like, no, you're off there, buddy. So it's nice to know that I can trust a being that actually is perfect and knows all the good things. And I'm encouraged to not lean on my own understanding, but to lean on his, and he'll make my path straight. Actually, if anything, adjust your expectations. Learn to bring your expectations to him. For those of you who, are Christ followers, do that. And he will make your path straight. He'll help balance those expectations out. So that's just on the faith side of things. That's what was roaming through my head there. So to kind of wrap it up a little bit here, I know this was a short one. This was a little doozy here. And like I said, won't be surprised if we have a part two. But with given everything that was just stated here and some of the points and whatnot, let's go back to the quote. If you expect disappointment, you can never really be disappointed. Well, we just talked about learning how to get honest with ourselves, to actually take a moment to actually identify what is it that we want in our healthy relationships, what do we need, right? And actually we got challenged too with, have you ever said it out loud to the other person, or are you assuming that they know what you want and need? And then the third point challenged us to always look at who's in front of us, not who we envision them to be, who we wish for them to be. To look at the human across from you and to see them for exactly who they are and where they're at and what are their capabilities and such. And I get it, because that can in some ways cause disappointment. And here's what it is: you're actually learning how to look at reality. You're actually living in reality. You're actually learning how to see things for how they are. And that's information there. And with knowledge comes power, right? Or to stick with the Spider-Man theme here, with great power comes great responsibility. That has nothing to do with what I just said. I just wanted to throw it out there. But the point is that you're collecting data. You're seeing things for what they are. You're seeing that person for who they are. Amazing, and having human moments and having human limitations. So you're saying that I need to readjust my expectations when it comes to my relationships. Wouldn't hurt. It's not saying to not have any, and it's not saying to set your standards low. It's just learning to take a moment and say, what is it that I actually want and need? And is this person capable of doing this? Do I need support? Do I get support from this person, or do I need to learn to find another community that's going to give me support? Is this person actually a great person to be in a relationship with? Like, are they producing the same level of healthiness that I am, right? That's touching on something a little bit different here. But the point is know what you want versus what you hope for, right? Don't assume, say it out loud. And remember that there is a real person in front of you, not who you wish for them to be. So going back to the quote, maybe we can flip it. Maybe the goal isn't to expect disappointment. Maybe let's just start with some honesty and see where we go from there. All right, everyone. We'll continue this. Thank you for coming and joining on another episode. Remember, be in tune. Peace.